Ladies and gentlemen, identity is the cornerstone of every individual's existence. It is the defining factor that shapes choices, relationships, and the overall direction of life. Yet for so many women, the understanding of their own identity remains clouded, misaligned, or outright stolen. When a woman does not fully grasp her worth, she becomes vulnerable to manipulation, exploitation, and even self-deception. The power of identity is not just a philosophical concept. It is a life-altering force that dictates the quality of her experiences and the boundaries she sets in every aspect of her life. To understand the power of identity, one must first examine its roots. Identity is not something handed down by others or found in the opinions of society. It is an intrinsic reality, a unique composition of traits, talents, values, and purpose that is bestowed upon each individual. However, societal norms, cultural expectations, and external pressures often dilute or distort this innate understanding. From a young age, many women are bombarded with messages about who they should be, what they should look like, and how they should behave. These influences can seep into the subconscious, causing them to conform to roles that feel unnatural or even oppressive. When a woman's identity is rooted in external validation, she becomes like a ship without an anchor, drifting wherever the tides of public opinion or personal relationships take her. She may find herself bending to the will of others, suppressing her own voice in favor of pleasing those around her. This lack of self-control becomes an illusion that permits lies to be pursued in favor of a spirit of selflessness, corruption, and corruption. People who seek to use or manipulate often prey on individuals who lack a strong sense of self, because they are more likely to accept less than they deserve. This is not a reflection of weakness, but rather a gap in self-awareness that leaves the door open for misuse. The consequences of an unclaimed identity can manifest in many ways. It might show up in unhealthy relationships where a woman tolerates disrespect, manipulation, or even abuse because she believes it's the best she can hope for. It might appear in her career when she undervalues her skills, accepts lower pay, or allows herself to be overshadowed by colleagues who take credit for her work, or justifies her place of status by helping as many others as possible in a name that fits the definition of it. It could even emerge in her personal decisions, where she makes choices based on fear of rejection rather than confidence in her desires and aspirations. Understanding identity is not simply about knowing one's name or background. It is about uncovering the deeper truths of one's existence. It requires peeling back the layers of societal conditioning and personal insecurities to reveal the core of who she truly is. This process demands introspection and often involves confronting painful truths about the ways she has allowed herself to be defined by others. Advances on the cover of Depravity have allowed this woman to demonstrate the levels of conviction for the last 7 years. But this confrontation is where the transformation begins. When a woman embraces her identity, everything changes. She begins to see herself not as a collection of others' expectations, but as a unique and purposeful being. This shift in perspective allows her to set boundaries, demand respect, and prioritize her well-being without guilt or hesitation. She no longer seeks validation from external sources because she recognizes that her worth is inherent. Her decisions become rooted in confidence and clarity rather than fear and doubt. The power of identity extends beyond personal growth. It influences the way others perceive and interact with her. When a woman carries herself with the assurance of someone who knows her worth, it creates an undeniable presence. People are less likely to test her boundaries or take advantage of her because they recognize that she is not easily swayed. This is not arrogance, but rather a quiet strength that comes from a well-grounded understanding of self. It is a declaration that she will no longer settle for anything less than what aligns with her value and purpose. Reclaiming identity also has a ripple effect on relationships. A woman who knows who she is can engage in partnerships from a place of mutual respect and equality. She is not afraid to walk away from situations that do not serve her because she understands that her happiness and fulfillment are not negotiable. This self-assuredness often inspires those around her to rise to the occasion, fostering healthier and more meaningful connections. Identity is not static. It is a dynamic and evolving force. As a woman grows, learns, and experiences life, her understanding of herself deepens. This evolution is a testament to her resilience and adaptability, qualities that further reinforce her sense of self. However, This growth is only possible when she is intentional about protecting and nurturing her identity, and recognizing that she is more than halfway there before truly becoming the ideal version of herself. It requires vigilance to avoid falling into the trap of external validation and a commitment to prioritizing her own voice above all others. In a world that constantly seeks to define women by their roles, appearances, or relationships, the power of identity is an act of defiance. It is a declaration that she is more than what society expects or demands. It is the foundation upon which she builds her life, the compass that guides her decisions, and the shield that protects her from being used or diminished. By embracing her identity, she claims the authority to shape her destiny, chart her course, and live authentically. Desperation is a dangerous state of mind, one that can lead individuals, particularly women, down paths of compromise, regret, and emotional turmoil. It is a silent force that creeps in when hopes are deferred, self-worth is questioned, or societal pressures weigh heavily on the heart. Desperation is not born overnight. It is the culmination of unmet needs, ignored desires, and a longing for something or someone to fill the void. While it may start as a whisper, desperation can grow into a roar, influencing decisions, relationships, and behaviors in ways that can be deeply harmful. One of the most profound dangers of desperation is its ability to cloud judgment. In the midst of longing for love, acceptance, or security, a woman may find herself willing to accept less than she deserves. She might rationalize red flags in a relationship or settle for situations that undermine her dignity and happiness. Desperation can create blind spots, preventing her from seeing the full picture or understanding the consequences of her choices. It operates as a form of emotional manipulation, not from an external source but from within, whispering lies like, "This is all there is," or "If you don't take this now, you'll lose your chance." In romantic relationships, the effects of desperation can be particularly damaging. A woman who fears being alone may tolerate behavior that is toxic or harmful simply to avoid the pain of solitude. She may convince herself that a flawed partner is better than no partner at all, ignoring her own needs and boundaries in the process. Desperation can also make her vulnerable to people who seek to exploit her longing for connection. Manipulative individuals often prey on those who are willing to overlook their flaws or accept mistreatment out of fear of losing them. This dynamic can lead to cycles of emotional abuse, where a woman gives more and more of herself while receiving little in return. The danger of desperation is not limited to romantic relationships. It extends to every area of life. In the workplace, a woman who feels desperate for validation or financial stability may allow herself to be overworked, underpaid, or undervalued. She may hesitate to negotiate for better terms or to advocate for herself, fearing that she might lose her job or opportunities. Similarly, in friendships, she might accept one-sided dynamics, where she gives endlessly without receiving the same level of care or support. Desperation creates an internal dialogue that justifies these imbalances, convincing her that she must settle for less because she believes she has no other option. Desperation also has a way of warping a woman's perception of herself. When she operates from a place of neediness, she often starts to internalize the idea that her worth is tied to what others give her or how they perceive her. She may begin to question her own value, asking herself why she isn't good enough to deserve better, and so on. This self-doubt becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. As the more she tolerates situations that don't honor her worth, the more she reinforces the belief that she is undeserving of more. It's a cycle that feeds on itself, growing stronger with every compromise and every decision made from a place of lack. The societal pressures that contribute to desperation cannot be ignored. Women are often inundated with messages that equate their value to their relationships, physical appearance, or social status. These pressures can create a sense of urgency, a ticking clock that suggests they must achieve certain milestones by a certain age, or risk being left behind. This manufactured sense of scarcity drives many women into decisions they later regret, as they rush to meet expectations that may not even align with their true desires or values. The fear of being judged or deemed inadequate can be a powerful motivator, pushing them to act out of desperation rather than intention. At its core, desperation is rooted in fear. Fear of being alone, fear of failure, fear of rejection, or fear of missing out. This fear becomes a lens through which every opportunity, relationship, and experience is viewed. It distorts reality, making unhealthy options seem appealing simply because they appear to offer relief from that fear. The problem is that decisions made in desperation rarely lead to lasting satisfaction. They may provide temporary solace, but they often come at the cost of long-term happiness, self-respiration, or personal growth. Desperation also has a way of isolating women from their support systems. Out of shame or embarrassment, they may hide their true feelings or the situations they've gotten themselves into. They may avoid reaching out to friends or loved ones who could provide perspective or guidance, fearing judgment or rejection. This isolation only deepens the cycle of desperation, as it removes the opportunity for outside voices to challenge the false narratives they've come to believe. Carter represented for the defense in the deposition that most of the representatives they came to believe. Without intervention, it becomes increasingly difficult to break free from the patterns of compromise and self-sacrifice that desperation creates. In addition to its emotional toll, desperation often has practical consequences. Women may find themselves trapped in financial instability, unhealthy living situations, or unfulfilling careers because they acted out of fear rather than careful consideration. These consequences can ripple outward, affecting not only their own lives, but also the lives of those who depend on them. The cost of desperation is rarely confined to the individual. It has the potential to impact families, communities, and future generations. The pattern of acceptance is a subtle yet powerful force that shapes the trajectory of a woman's life. It is the recurring cycle of tolerating behaviors, circumstances, or situations that fall short of her true worth, often without realizing the long-term consequences. Acceptance begins with small allowances, seemingly inconsequential moments when boundaries are crossed or standards are compromised. Over time, these small allowances accumulate, creating a pattern that not only influences how others treat her, but also how she perceives herself. It becomes a silent agreement with mistreatment, a passive permission for disrespect to persist. At the heart of the pattern of acceptance lies a fundamental truth. What you allow is what will continue. When a woman permits even the smallest acts of disregard, whether it's a dismissive comment, an unkind gesture, or unmet promises, she sends a message that such behavior is tolerable. This message may not be intentional, but it is received nonetheless. People quickly learn what they can and cannot get away with based on the boundaries a woman sets or, more often, fails to enforce. The cycle begins with one instance of leniency and grows as others test the limits of her patience, tolerance, and resilience. In relationships, this pattern often takes root when a woman prioritizes harmony over her own needs. She might excuse a partner's neglect by telling herself, "It's not that big of a deal," or "They'll do better next time." These justifications might ease the discomfort in the moment, but they also establish a precedent. Over time, what started as an occasional oversight can evolve into a pattern of consistent disregard. The partner learns that their actions, or lack thereof, will not have significant consequences, and the woman, perhaps unknowingly, begins to normalize behavior that undermines her well-being. The pattern of acceptance is not confined to romantic relationships. It permeates every sphere of life. In the workplace, for instance, a woman who consistently takes on extra responsibilities without recognition or fair compensation is effectively signaling that her efforts can be undervalued. When colleagues or superiors fail to acknowledge her contributions and she does not assert her worth, the cycle is reinforced. This dynamic can lead to burnout and resentment, but the underlying issue remains the same. By accepting inequity, she inadvertently perpetuates it. Even in friendships and family dynamics, the pattern of acceptance can take hold. A woman might tolerate one-sided relationships where she is always the giver, the problem solver, or the emotional support system, without receiving the same in return. Out of loyalty, fear of confrontation, or a desire to avoid conflict, she may continue to show up for people who consistently let her down. Over time, these relationships drain her energy and self-esteem, leaving her feeling unappreciated and undervalued. What makes the pattern of acceptance particularly insidious is its gradual nature. Rarely does a woman wake up one day and decide to tolerate disrespect or unfairness. Rather, the pattern develops incrementally. Each small instance of acceptance feels manageable in isolation, but together they create a foundation upon which larger issues can build. The slow progression makes it difficult to recognize the pattern for what it is until it has deeply rooted itself in her life. By the time she realizes the extent of the problem, it often feels overwhelming or impossible to address. The emotional impact of the pattern of acceptance cannot be overstated. Over time, repeatedly accepting less than she deserves erodes a woman's sense of self-worth. She begins to internalize the belief that she is not worthy of better treatment, and this belief influences her choices moving forward. She may stay in unhealthy situations not because she wants to, but because she feels powerless to demand change. This sense of helplessness can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, as the longer she tolerates mistreatment, the more difficult it becomes to envision a way out. Societal expectations also play a role in reinforcing the pattern of acceptance. Women are often socialized to be accommodating, nurturing, and self-sacrificing, traits that, while valuable, can be weaponized against them. The pressure to be nice, to avoid conflict, or to put others' needs ahead of their own can make it difficult for women to establish and enforce boundaries. When they do speak up, they may be met with resistance or labeled as difficult, further discouraging them from challenging the status quo. This societal conditioning creates an environment where the pattern of acceptance can thrive. When the effort and sacrifice is according to the pattern, change is predictable and offers reassurance. The practical consequences of this pattern are far-reaching. Women who consistently accept less than they deserve may find themselves stuck in jobs that don't fulfill them, relationships that drain them, and lifestyles that don't align with their values. The longer the pattern persists, the more entrenched it becomes, making it harder to break free. This can lead to a sense of stagnation, where the woman feels as though she is merely surviving rather than truly living. The beginning of any project, the opportunities she misses, the dreams she puts on hold, and the potential she leaves untapped are all casualties of the pattern of acceptance. Breaking free from this pattern requires a profound shift in mindset, but recognition of the cycle is the first step. By identifying the ways in which she has allowed herself to accept less, a woman can begin to reclaim her power and rewrite the narrative of her life. Awareness is the light that breaks through the darkness of confusion, pain, and stagnation. It is the moment of clarity when a woman begins to see the truth of her circumstances, the role she has played in creating or sustaining them, and the power she holds to change her trajectory. Awareness is not an easy gift to receive. It often arrives wrapped in discomfort and accompanied by the sting of self-realization. Yet it is also the starting point for transformation, the catalyst that allows a woman to break free from cycles of misuse, neglect, or self-doubt. The redemption of awareness lies in its ability to not only reveal what is broken, but also illuminate the path to healing and empowerment. End of chapter 26. This book is for those who believe in healing. In the crisis of time, loving the crisis actually saves the world. For many women, the lack of awareness is not a deliberate choice, but a survival mechanism. They endure mistreatment, tolerate mediocrity, or ignore their own needs because it feels safer than confronting the truth. Awareness challenges this safety. It forces a woman to look at her life with unfiltered honesty and ask difficult questions. Why have I allowed this? What do I truly want? What am I afraid of? And these questions are uncomfortable because they demand accountability. They require her to acknowledge the ways she has contributed to her own suffering, whether through silence, inaction, or misplaced loyalty. This reckoning is painful, but it is also liberating. Awareness brings with it the power of choice. Until a woman becomes aware of her patterns, she cannot change them. She remains trapped in a cycle of reaction, responding to life as it happens, rather than actively shaping her experiences. The moment she becomes aware, she gains the ability to make intentional decisions. She can choose to set boundaries, walk away from unhealthy situations, and prioritize her well-being. Awareness shifts her from a passive participant in her own life to an active creator of her future. This shift is not instantaneous, nor is it easy. It requires courage, persistence, and a willingness to face uncertainty, but it is also deeply rewarding. One of the most profound aspects of awareness is its ability to reveal the truth about self-worth. Many women operate under the false belief that they are not deserving of better treatment, better opportunities, or better relationships. This belief often stems from years of conditioning, societal messaging, or personal experiences that have chipped away at their confidence. Awareness shines a light on these false narratives and challenges them. It allows a woman to see herself not through the lens of her mistakes or others' opinions, but through the lens of her inherent value. This recognition is a powerful form of redemption, as it reclaims the identity and self-respect that may have been lost along the way. Awareness also reveals the power of choice in relationships. A woman who becomes aware of her own patterns can start to identify the dynamics that no longer serve her. She may recognize that she has been accepting less than she deserves, tolerating disrespect, or compromising her happiness for the sake of keeping the peace. This realization can be painful, as it often involves letting go of relationships that have been a significant part of her life. Yet it is also an opportunity to create space for healthier, more fulfilling connections. Awareness enables her to discern between those who genuinely support her growth and those who hinder it, allowing her to invest her energy where it will be valued. The redemption of awareness is not limited to relationships. It extends to every area of life. In the workplace, a woman who becomes aware of her own skills and contributions can advocate for herself with confidence. She can negotiate for better pay, seek out opportunities that align with her goals, and refuse to accept roles that do not honor her talents. Number 3. The prosperity of the little. In her personal life, awareness allows her to identify the habits and beliefs that hold her back and replace them with practices that empower her. Whether it's prioritizing self-care, pursuing a long-held dream, or simply learning to say no, awareness opens the door to a life that is more aligned with her values and aspirations. What makes awareness redemptive is its ability to transform pain into purpose. Many women resist awareness because it forces them to confront uncomfortable truths about their past choices or current circumstances. However, this confrontation is where healing begins. By acknowledging her pain and understanding its origins, a woman can start to release the shame, guilt, or anger that has been holding her back. She can use her experiences as a source of strength and wisdom, turning what once felt like a burden into a foundation for growth. Awareness does not erase the past, but it does allow her to rewrite its influence on her future. She passes on her wisdom to her sons. The journey of awareness is deeply personal, and it looks different for every woman. For some, it may come as a sudden epiphany, a moment of clarity that shifts their perspective in an instant. For others, it may be a gradual process, unfolding over weeks, months, or even years, as they peel back the layers of their own emotions and experiences. Regardless of how it arrives, awareness is always transformative. Soul awareness is always transformative. It is the starting point for change, the spark that ignites a woman's journey toward a more authentic and fulfilling life. Awareness is also a continuous process. It is not a destination, but a practice, a commitment to remaining present and attuned to one's own needs, desires, and boundaries. Life is constantly changing and new challenges will inevitably arise. The key is to approach these challenges with the same honesty and intentionality that awareness demands. By staying connected to her own truth, a woman can navigate life's uncertainties with grace and confidence. A depression is not a trial. A woman can navigate life's uncertainties with grace and confidence. Awareness empowers her to adapt, grow, and thrive, no matter what circumstances she faces.